All right, good evening, everyone. Happy Easter, first of all. Thank you for joining me for Friday Night Live, the show where every week we get someone interesting on to talk to us all about life and lockdown life in general, to keep us company, and also the show where I'll be asking your questions to all of my special guests. I do have a great special guest joining us here tonight. But before I bring him on, I just want to check that everyone can hear me, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. So just drop me a comment. Let me know you're watching so I can check that YouTube is streaming as well as Facebook. That'll help me out. And if you do want to help the show out and help grow this Friday Night Live chats, if you click the share button, it will help us out massively because it will tell all your friends that we're live. And then if they're up for it, they can join in as well. Right, okay. So what I'm going to do before I intro my special guest, I'm just going to make sure that I've tagged him into the post. Here we go. And then we'll bring him on. So just to tell you a little bit about the gentleman who I'm bringing on tonight. I've known him for many years now. He's an incredible magician and a great friend and a real great guy in general. I will show you a picture of, I was very lucky, I've performed in a couple of shows with him now since I was on the show. This was the biggest of the shows that we've done together. This was in the West End in an Old Coward Theatre, me and Magical Bones, and an incredible lineup of magicians. Every single person on that poster is a big time star. And that was amazing. That was for about 2 months, and we've got lots of stories that I remember of my time on there. Probably the most exciting theatre show that I've ever been a part of. It was a real treat. So I do have a video to intro this guy, just to remind you guys who he is and to kind of big him up in a big way. And it's one of my favourite tricks that I've ever seen him do, and I love it when he does it, and it is pretty dangerous as well. So here you go. This is a little catch-up of the most recent Britain's Got Talent series.
My name is Magical Bones, and I'm a street magician. And tonight I want to show you guys something you've probably never ever seen before.
Ooh, let's hope so.
Simon?
Yep.
Can you take one out for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna go for that one.
Perfect.
Shall I just take it?
Yeah, take it out. Don't show it to me.
I won't.
But what I'd like you to do is write
I
your
see
name. Yeah, you can see it. And then write your name nice and big on this side of the card, yeah? And then when you're done, you're going to just show the camera and show everyone else, okay? I'm going to look this way so I can't see. I'll take that back. And you're the closest you can see that's lost forever.
Yep.
I want you to focus on that card, get it in your mind. Let's try this.
What just happened? Oh my days.
Wouldn't it be cool if this is Simon's?
How epic was that, ladies and gents? So I'm going to bring him on to the live here tonight. So Lucy, Lana, Anastasia, Loella, everyone, thank you for joining me. Let's welcome him now. Here he is, the man himself, Mr. Magical Bones. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Richard. How you doing?
How's it going?
Hello,
So
everyone.
good to see you. We've got a lot to talk about. It's been a long time since we've had a catch-up. And obviously, the last time I saw you, we did a show together, which was probably not long before the first lockdown. We did a show together, which was actually local to me. It was a great show. But just give us an insight into what you do. Obviously, everyone knows you were on Britain's Got Talent in the most recent finals, just gone in 2020. But give us a little bit of a backstory as to the kind of magic you do and how you got into magic, just to kick us off.
Well, yeah, thank you, and hello, everyone. As you said, my name's Bones. Bones is because before I started as a professional magician, I was a break dancer, if you want to call it, and my nickname as a break dancer was Bones. And I used to dance on the street. In particular, I used to dance at the London South Bank, just by the London Eye. And then eventually I started incorporating magic, which I used to do as a kid as a hobby, into my dance performances. And that later evolved into magic and dance, like this kind of fusion I was experimenting to, and I became a professional magician. And then went from Bones to Magical Bones. I started doing stage shows, and yeah, just been doing that ever since. And the style of magic I do is sort of hip hop infused, if you want to say. I like music, I like dance, and I like to cover lots of interesting stories. And at the moment, I'm looking at like, you know, history of black magicians and stuff. So yeah.
You did you had a great story in obviously your Britain's Got Talent performance this year, which everyone would have seen, because most people who follow us on Friday Night Live here, they're all big fans of BGT, so they all know who you are, and what you did was really epic. And I've actually been talking about you a lot recently because I've started doing magic lectures over Zoom, and something I keep telling magicians that I think is a game changer is the thing that's most interesting about the most interesting magicians isn't just the magic, it's the story of them. And if you can combine elements of yourself and stuff you're interested in besides magic, whether it's your career or just other interests that you have, or stories or things you're passionate about, combine that with magic, you instantly make your performances more powerful. And something I tell people is when, for example, in the Britain's Got Talent shows this year, you came out and people expected magic, and you did your dance routine, which was pretty awesome, as it always is. And then you went into your magic routine, which was super powerful. But not only that, is you had this overarching, meaningful story in there as well. And it made everything so strong because you had all the elements there that basically spells out entertainment. I really loved it. I've just had an interesting question come up here. And ladies and gents, make sure you do put your questions in. I'm going to keep an eye out for them. This question here from Tim says, I'd love to know what it was like working for Madonna. Have you worked for Madonna?
Yeah,
I didn't know this, if you did.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
So I used to be like I said, I was a professional dancer, and I was actually a proper dancer. I wasn't just like, you know, just used to dance as a hobby. I used to do a lot of music videos. As you can Google them and go on YouTube and see some of them.
Oh, we will
one
now.
Was Singing in the Rain. That was that actually went to #1 by Mint Royal, and I'm the lead dancer in that video. But to answer your question about Madonna, I worked with Madonna on for her son's 10th birthday party. She hired at the time, which was some of the best dancers around the world, to surprise her son for his 10th birthday party. And it had dancers like Le Twins, who are like super famous now, if you guys know about dancers. Le Twins in there, and a couple other really big dancers. And it was a surprise thing, and it was like this big kind of competition that we did for him, and he was one of the judges. And Madonna was just super cool, man. She's just so down to earth, super chilled, really nice, you know, great conversations you can have with her, and she's just a great person. I just like her as just someone who's really just sort of down to earth. And it's weird because obviously when you see them, a superstar, a megastar on TV and stuff, like, it's kind of, you just have this perception, and then when you talk to them, you realize that they're just ordinary people. And, you know, performance-wise, that's when they accentuate themselves and be an extra version of themselves. But in real life, you know, she's quite humble and down to earth. So
do you still have her in your phone book?
No. No. I can't whip up Madonna in my phone, but no.
I knew someone was going to ask. Who would you say is the coolest person in your phone book?
Oh, in my phone book?
You've done some pretty epic shows with some big people.
Richard Jones is pretty cool.
I appreciate that. Luella's asked a question, actually, which kind of leads nicely on from that. So apart from me, who's your favourite magician? Who inspired you the most in magic?
Has to be David Blaine, actually. The most.
Oh, he's drawn.
I think it is David Blaine. David Blaine.
Yeah.
David Blaine is a top guy.
That's a standard answer for so many magicians, obviously. It's not easy to top him. Okay, right, here we go. So we've got some BGT questions coming in. Archie is a young magician, and he says, what's your favourite magic trick you did on BGT?
I feel it was the first one, the first of the audition piece we did, because it was just so we had a real audience in there, first of all.
Of course.
And you don't, I mean, the edit that they did on TV was amazing, but the live performance was, the way you feel the energy from the crowd and the way it all felt was just it was amazing. You can't even describe that. Like when it just everything goes so well, it's the best feeling ever. And it was a hard trick to pull off in front of a live audience, and we pulled it off. So that's probably was my favorite one.
I'm gutted I couldn't show in that clip earlier. I couldn't show the second half of it because I'm limited on how much video I can play without getting ripped off of Facebook. But yeah, you had an epic illusion just after that. But interestingly, the first thing you did, which I showed, the backflip catching the card. So when we was on Impossible, Bones used to do that pretty much every night. And I don't know how you... I mean, it must be a terrifying trick to do. Has it ever gone wrong? Do you ever... If you're not concentrating or anything like that, it's dangerous.
I don't know if you remember in the show, actually, one time in the West End, we were in it went wrong. It's never gone wrong, horribly wrong. It's only gone, it has gone horribly wrong twice. But that was earlier on when I first started doing it. There's one time I did it and the card just slipped out my hand. So I did this back somersault, whipped through to catch the card, and it just slipped out my hand, and I had nothing in my hand. And once you don't catch the card, you don't have anything. There's no out because it's a signed card,
right.
So it's not like
it doesn't make sense after that.
Yeah. Ta-da! So I just had nothing. But as audiences, they always think that come on, that's not the trick. There's a surprise ending, and in that moment, like I'm fully in. There's no surprise ending. That's it. If I don't catch that card, that's it. And then there was one time in West End where I fell on my, I kind of tripped as I caught it. I don't know if you remember that show. There was one where I tripped and everyone panicked.
I do vaguely remember now, yeah.
Do you remember like when I tripped? I still caught the card and I got up and the audience was like, they didn't know whether to clap, whether they're like, do you know what I mean? But what they didn't know is what I did subsequently, because do you remember when I used to pour the champagne out out my jacket?
Yes, yeah.
So that's what fooled them at the end. So then they thought, that was all part of the whole act. So I did the flip, caught the card, kind of tripped a little bit, and then they were like, and then I showed the card and I said, oh, by the way, I actually have a glass of champagne. So that's why I was like being very careful with my flips. So they thought we kind of rescued it.
Awesome. I've got an interesting question from Martin. So Martin's a regular with us here on Friday Night Lives, and he's a magician as well. And he's asked, what achievement are you most proud of career-wise? I assume it's going to be BGT, but you might surprise us if...
Actually, career-wise, it has to be pulling off my first ever stage show, because it was against all the odds. I never had any stage experience. I never had any support. I didn't have any connections. I literally booked a theatre, Wandsworth Theatre, it doesn't even exist anymore. But I booked Wandsworth Theatre in Wandsworth. And I managed to sell that out. And it was something I did all off my own back. So I was very proud of that, to be able to have done that. So I think as a magician, that was probably my favorite achievement to have done that. Just
how
all
long
on my
ago
own.
Are we talking, roughly? How was
2011.
Okay, yeah. So how long have you been doing magic in general?
I've been doing magic since I was 10, so a long time.
Yeah. All right. How old are you now? I've got no idea how old you are, actually.
Well, yeah, I'm actually 38 now. I'm not spring chicken anymore.
Really?
I know, but they say black don't crack, so there you have it.
You don't look 38. Yeah, absolutely not. I always remember, so the start of the Impossible show, every night we would, all the magicians at the very opening of the show would appear with spotlights around the auditorium. And I remember the start of the show, I would go up and I'd be in a box and Magical Bones would be in the next box along. And I seem to remember a couple of times you wondering where I was. I was late so many times because I always forget that I was a time where I kept forgetting how the opening of the show started. A couple of times you saved my bacon where you come and found me. You're like, God, you got to be on in a second. But that was probably my favourite run of shows ever. Obviously, being in the West End was a big deal anyway. But we obviously had Jonathan Goodwin, we had Chris Cox. We had literally the best lineup you could even think of.
Amazing.
Yeah, was that your? But you'd been up with Impossible for a while before I joined. Was
Yeah,
that right?
we did the tour. I did the UK tour with Impossible, and that was for about a year. And I also did the opening of Impossible the year before that. Before I did sort of a short TV show called Around the World in 80 Tricks, so I couldn't do the summer in West End the year before. But I've been associated with Impossible from the very beginning.
Interestingly, I'm not sure if I ever told you or Chris Cox this, but the year before, I think it must have been the year before I was on it, so it must have been 2015. I actually went to see Impossible in the West End, and I was called onto stage in Chris Cox's acts. And you know what? I don't even know if I've ever even told him this. I think I've only just literally had this flashback. But I was really high up in the auditorium on the, I think I was in the second, on the balcony, really high up. And I just seem to remember having an envelope and an usher come in to get me, and it took me onto stage, and Chris Cox read my mind on stage. And then obviously the year later, then I met Chris Cox for the first time, and I don't even think I ever told him that.
It was pre-planned, preordained, that's what it was.
Yeah. Absolutely. So what was the most pressurizing thing, would you say, of being on Britain's Got Talent? Was it something that did you have an easy ride on it, or did you have changes?
I say we as in like me and the people who helped, because magic is you can be the performer, but there's a whole bunch of people that help you get an act together,
Absolutely.
And I think the hardest part was actually the final, and the reason why I say that is because in each and every phase you do get, especially the audition you get quite a lot of time to prepare and make sure, because it's kind of, for me, it was the biggest audition of my life, in the sense that like it was the first time I'm going to be judged by the world. Let's say it that.
Yeah.
So openly, so you get a lot of time to prepare that, and then when you start getting to this later stages of the show, you got much less time to prepare, and then that's when all the outside decisions affect your may or may not affect your future performances. So before, you're just like, okay, this is what I do, take it. But then you start listening to other people, and everyone has input. And then when you get to the final, it's quite intense because it's so quick. It turns around so quick, and you've got so much to think about and different ideas and different things. And so I'd say the final was probably, preparing for that was probably harder than the other stages, because the turnaround is so quick.
Well, something that's interesting that's never happened before on not just BGT, but TV history in general, is it was the first year, obviously, that there's not been a live audience for the live shows. And I believe you had screens all the way around you from people tuning in on Zoom. But obviously, as entertainers, we like to bounce off of the energy of a live audience. I would assume that it would be so much more difficult to perform for a room of screens than it would be to perform live, because it doesn't feel as easy, especially I think for comedians and magicians. I think we need a live audience to really bounce off. But you handled it really well. It didn't feel like at any point that you felt like you needed anything extra from the crowd or anything. It was really flawless.
That's all those years spent in front of my mirror talking to myself, practicing my card tricks.
Yeah,
I got a good start.
Well, you've started doing Zoom shows as well now during lockdown. When did they start? Were you one of the people who got straight on it right at the start of the first lockdown, or did you?
Yeah, I actually was. I started giving it a go because a couple of my friends were doing it, and we sort of didn't have anything to do, did we? So
true.
It was you'd be on Instagram Live or Facebook Live or something, and then one of my friends said, "Look, I'm doing Zoom stuff," and I said, "Oh, how's that working out?" And it was working quite well for them. So I thought, let's give it a go. And I got comfortable with the medium and quite quickly. So I'm quite comfortable on Zoom,
Yeah.
It's a bit weird at first because you're kind of you're used to a real audience laughing and cheering. As people, we need to hear, as we're humans, isn't it? We need that social contact, that social connection. And it does take a while to adjust, but once you adjust, you feel like a bit of a radio host.
Yeah. That's what I love about this Friday Night Lives. We have the same people join us every week, which is so nice because I feel like even people who I've never even met, I feel like we're still close friends because I see their names pop up, and it's really nice that we keep each other company every Friday, and it feels like a regular spot. So we have a good time. We've had some interesting people on in the last few weeks. And in fact, a lot of people have been asking for me to get you on for quite some time. So we are grateful that you joined us tonight. But interestingly, do you find that has your act changed massively from your live act from now doing Zoom shows, or are you doing similar style of tricks?
Well, I don't know if you of course you know. I'm actually I'm an illusionist, but I'm actually a close-up guy as well. So, I'm the kind of magician you book for your private wedding or your birthday party or corporate events, and I go around to groups of people saying, "Hi, I'm the magician. Can I show you a couple of tricks?" So I'm very comfortable with magic, quite up close and personal, and so doing magic in front of camera kind of felt like that to me. And also, I do magic on Instagram. I do clips where I do just tricks directly to camera. So it wasn't really that far off. And I think actually once you get into Zoom shows, you can actually start to really enjoy them because it's another way of doing presenting magic on a platform. Like, how am I able to read your mind? Do you know what I mean? While you're all the way in your house and I'm nowhere near you. How? So as this is what people say. So that's what's good about it. So I kind of I do enjoy them actually quite a bit.
I reckon they're now here to stay. I reckon it will be a constant thing, and I'm hoping to keep doing virtual shows way into the future now. It's a completely separate form of entertainment, and
exactly.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. When I first started doing them, I couldn't bear it. I was thinking I would hate it, but I thought I'll give them a go. But actually, I think it's totally worth doing. And Martin has just clarified that he saw your show and he thought it was excellent.
Yeah, Martin was amazing. Came on and it was great. It was a pleasure to perform for him, and he's good support actually for these throughout this pandemic.
Absolutely, yeah. I think he's probably the one person who's seen probably every magician in the world's Zoom show. I see his posts on his Facebook when he's seen everyone's shows. And he does some great reviews, and he's always very positive, which is handy. So Jade says, "What age did you start dancing?" My son started street dancing at the age of 6, and he'll be 16 next month. Wow, he's no doubt amazing.
I started dancing. Well, I started dancing when I was 16, 17, and then professionally, I guess 18. 16, 17, South Bank. And
do you still do shows as a dancer, or I assume you're mainly 100% a magician, but you just combine dance in that now? Is that right?
Yeah, I started bringing more, getting back into dancing, getting back into shape. I actually went out, been training now. Just lockdown, said, all right, let me get back in shape and bring back some of the old moves. That was what was nice about BGT actually. Like, I was bringing back some of the old Bones moves, like the Apple Jacks behind the head and all this kind of stuff I used to do when I was a dancer. Nice. So I'm bringing some of that stuff, the windmills, but I don't really do jobs. Have I done a job as just a dancer? I did actually last year, randomly. I got I don't really do that many dancing jobs, but sometimes I do get calls from my old agent, and I did a job actually for I was played a double for a Chelsea player. What was his name? He used to play for Chelsea. Defender, this black guy. I can't remember his name. But I was his double, and they made me, because we were similar frame and stuff. So I just played his double, and I was doing like flares and spinning on the floor, and they used me as a double. But that was probably the last proper dance job I did.
So do you have any dance moves in your Zoom show? Do you do a backflip in your house?
I do a little wave. Robot, maybe. That's about it.
Awesome.
Actually, when we do, I've done a few hybrid shows. Actually, these are bigger type of Zoom shows. So there was a Zoom show like this, which is just in my living room, just with my laptop and a couple of bits. And then there are bigger shows where corporate companies hire you in a studio, and you actually have a full set. And I do actually a proper almost like it's almost like a BGT version of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have a common theme on Friday Night Lives, and that theme is called the Bovril Challenge. And because it's Friday Night Live, we have to ask all of our guests, what are your thoughts on Bovril? First of all, have you even ever heard of Bovril?
Never heard of Bovril, sorry.
Oh my God, we've found, ladies and gents, we've found finally someone else who didn't know what Bovril was. I've had no idea what Bovril was for a long time until someone sent it to me. It's basically, all I can describe it is, it's basically a drink version of Marmite. It's a beef drink
I think I've heard of that. No,
yeah,
it's famous, isn't it, or something?
it's a question that goes way back on this channel. Someone asked it a long time ago, and I didn't know what it was, and I upset everyone who joins because they couldn't believe that I'd never heard of what Bovril was. And then someone, some lovely person, I think it was Loera and Derek, actually then sent me Bovril, and I always open my parcels on live on Facebook, so they knew I'd got it because they saw me open the box. So then I had to try it, and it's gross.
I apologise for not knowing Bovril, guys. Please forgive me.
Yeah, you've upset everyone. It's taken the pressure off me now that someone else doesn't know. So I have actually added a link to Magical Bones' next Zoom show, which is on Friday next week. Is that right?
Yeah,
I've
the
added
9th.
it on Facebook in the description above. I haven't managed to do it on YouTube yet, so if you're watching on YouTube, I'll add that to the link just after. So you've got a very busy Magic week next week, ladies and gents, because you can join Magical Bones on Friday, enjoy his show, and then join me on Saturday with my show. So there we go. It's going to be a full-on Magic week next week. Now, there's a long question here. I haven't read it yet, so let's read this together. Now, we have... what I've noticed is how a lot of magicians combine another skill or career. Absolutely. Magical Bones with dancing, Mandy with comedy. We had Mandy Moodham last week, Bones, who was absolutely fantastic. And Richard Army. Absolutely, that is so true, Tim. And I think that's what makes entertaining in general more interesting is when... And we also become a little bit more relatable when we combine things. Now, interestingly, last week with Mandy had some great stories about when she'd been on cruises in the past, and she even did a cruise for a swingers cruise, and she had no idea it was a swingers cruise until she went upstairs to make a phone call just after they set off, and she realised everyone was naked on the cruise ship.
Nice, and that cruises tend to be quite, elderly, so that must have been an elderly swingers cruise, I presume, yeah?
I would have no idea.
70 plus.
I'm not sure if we should picture it either way. Have you done any cruises before?
I haven't. I may be doing one soon. Depends. We'll see how it goes. But I may be doing one soon. But I haven't ever done one.
Okay. Well, so Hazel has put a name here. I assume this is a footballer. Is this?
It's not Claude Makelele. It's not Claude Makelele. I think he's just left Chelsea. What's his name? He's a defender. Tall black guy, beard.
Well, our mission now, ladies and gents, is to find the name of this guy.
I can check his email and I'll see who it is. But it was, he was a defender. I think he left actually. He's left now. Yeah. Okay.
Well, we've got John O'Riordan has joined us. John's one of my close friends in Magic, and I know you know him very well.
Yes,
and to Richard. So, interestingly, Magical Bones, I always knew you as Bones when we were in the West End. And it wasn't until we'd been doing the show in the West End for probably a month and a half at this point, and I'd only just found out that your first name is Richard, which was interesting.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is not only did I not realise what your first name was, and it was Richard, but I think you thought my first real name was Lance at the time.
I remember you. I had no idea what you did in the.
Because obviously everyone just introduced me as Lance Corporal Richard Jones, and lots of people just assumed my name was Lance, which, to be fair, is a cooler magical name than Richard. Which is no doubt why you changed to Bones as well. So
yeah, Richard wasn't my favourite name, to be honest. It's a cool name, and I prefer being called Bones than Richard.
Do your friends call you Bones as well?
Everyone calls me Bones. Literally, everyone calls me Bones, unless everyone calls me Bones, or unless if you're my mum, elder family members, or if you're like,
Yeah.
you know, my teacher or something. Not that I have
Yeah.
a teacher now, but you know,
When
people
you're a bit
who
bad.
just like, you know, I'm not going to call you Bones. I'll call you by your name, Richard. You know, so yeah. But most people call me Bones.
Awesome. Well, Rachel Hill says, great news for next week. It looks like Rachel's going to be joining us for our Zoom shows, which is good to see. Everyone loves magic on Facebook Night, Friday Night Live Facebook. Everyone who joins us is a magic fan, which is always good to see. So I'm just looking out for any more questions. Here we have... yeah.
Oh, there you go. Antonio yeah, he got it. Hazel got it. Antonio Rudiger. That's it.
So Hazel, is it Chelsea? Was it
Yeah,
Chelsea?
Chelsea. Yeah, Antonio Rudiger. Yeah.
So I assume Hazel's probably a Chelsea fan.
It's the
Hazel,
Chelsea
let us
fan.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I assume so. And I think, Hazel, you're joining me on Saturday next week, aren't we? So hopefully you'll have a doubled up Magic Night next week, which sounds good. And you're also a dad, aren't you?
Yes, I have a little son called Akintayo, who you saw on this semi-final performance.
Absolutely.
He's a cheeky little boy. But yeah, I'm loving him to bits. He's a bit of a dancer himself. So my missus, if you go on her Facebook, Instagram, you will see loads of pictures of him doing dance moves. He's not into the magic just yet, but he loves dancing.
That will
so
come. Well, he's already featured on a huge national TV show. So he's obviously destined to be a star. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a big tearjerker. That was your final, wasn't it, when they appeared?
No, that was the semi-final.
Semi-final. That was a great moment.
Yeah, it was good because I was able to relate. People don't know this. I say it in the opening monologue, but I talk about how Henry Box Brown, who's the guy I sort of featured throughout all my pieces, what made him want to, escape from slavery, what gave him the impetus to do that was the fact that his wife was actually a slave as well. And her slave owner, they sold her and her family while she was pregnant to different slave owners, so he couldn't have any contact with his wife and his 3 children. And that was sort of the end of where he was like, this needs to end now. Like, do you know what I mean? I can't even see my family. I want to escape from slavery. So I sort of related it to how I've been in lockdown, because at the time I left my missus and my son, they were in Canada, and I had to come back to the UK to start this UK tour. And then we went into this crazy COVID-19 lockdown, and I was like, I didn't get to see them for like 6 months. So it was relatable, and I just found it quite interesting. So that's why that piece was meant so much. Yeah.
Were you living in Canada at the time? Or
No, I sort of, my missus lives in Canada and lives here as well. So we sort of commute. She's got a lot of work in Canada. So she's back and forth.
What kind of work does she do?
She's a dancer.
As well?
She's a dancer,
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is that how you met?
Yeah, actually, I saw her show at Sadler's Wells. She was dancing for a company, and she just stole the show.
Have you ever involved her in a magic illusion, apart from obviously on live TV?
Well, yeah. So she's in the last 2 pieces actually. Yeah. So we do the quick change with her, and obviously the appearance. So yeah, those were the only 2.
Lucy says it gave her goosebumps. I think it gave us all goosebumps that moment when that was. I'm surprised. So that was your semi-final. So that was. It's always interesting trying to figure out what acts you should do in your semi-final and the final, because you obviously never know. You want to save kind of your favourite act to the last, but at the same time you don't know if you'll get there unless you do your best act first. And so I know every year magicians especially struggle to figure out which tricks.
The final was more rush as it is, because mine's more story driven and performance based type of magic. I like to tell stories and stuff. To find something that was in the time we had that, and to write it well and produce, to get the music right, was the challenging part. So I did like to put more time on it to really make it as good as the previous two pieces.
There's so many restrictions on TV magic. It's a shame that there'll never ever be enough time to put together something the way we want it, and that is the frustrating thing about TV. Is there's always so many changes that go on that mean we can't necessarily do the most strongest act we know we can do, which is frustrating. Mike's got another interesting question for you. He says, do you do a lot of work internationally apart from swingers cruises?
I do actually. So I get booked by a lot of corporate companies, private, very wealthy people who, you know, can afford to fly a British magician over to do shows. So I do a lot of that kind of work. I've been fortunate enough to have been to some amazing places, traveled across the globe, actually. Well, one with Impossible, one with Around the World in 80 Tricks, the TV show I did, and also corporate clients who've taken me across the world. So yeah, I'm living, or I've lived the dream. Let's say.
Absolutely, until lockdown, and but waiting to live it again.
Yeah,
not long,
exactly.
Not long left to wait. So you're Around the World in 80 Tricks. Is that's on Amazon Prime still? Is it?
That's on Amazon Prime. Yeah, so you can watch that on Amazon Prime.
So check that out.
South Korea, we went to. Where else did we go? South Korea. That was the most exciting place. I was going to say Spain, and not that Spain and France aren't exciting, but South Korea for me was quite exciting. It was completely different. I did 3 episodes there, but yeah, I did go to. I was in London, Paris, Spain, South Korea.
So did you had a team of people following you around, and were you in charge of directing it, or did you have a director?
No, there was a production company that directed it, and and it's really interesting because magic is such an amazing piece of art, because it translates through every barrier, really, language barriers in particular. You think like people in South Korea, a lot of the people I was performing to didn't understand a word of English, so magic was the only form of communication, and that's what was fascinating about doing Around the World in 8 Tricks, going to perform to people who only understand magic, the language of magic, not the way I'm speaking to them now, you now. So.
Yeah. So Luella says, what are your top tips for new magicians like me, as in like Luella?
Okay. Good question. I think one of the main things is to obviously practice, all the core sleights, all the fundamentals, and read books, some of the old books. There's a book called Royal Road to Card Magic. There's a book called Bobo Modern Coin Magic. Because and also there's an amazing book by Paul Harris called The Art of Astonishment. Read those books, because there's so much material and ideas in books, and it can really inspire you to sort of be more creative, and also when the world opens up, just read about life, because I like to. Magic for me, I believe magic is an art form that can just use to tell stories. I think most of art form is about telling stories, whether it's music, it's telling a story, aren't you? In music, you're telling a story about the girl you love, the guy you hate, or whatever. Films is telling stories, pictures is telling stories. I think magic is another form of telling a story. So, go out and just read and just learn about life, and you can tell your story through magic.
Absolutely. Love that. Right, we'll wrap it up with one final question from the lovely Ellie, who says, can you juggle? That's one of the things I've learned in lockdown, is how to juggle 3 balls. Can you juggle?
I can do 3 balls. I can.
Have you got 3 objects with you right now that we can have a little juggle challenge? Okay, I should have preempted this, shouldn't I?
I've got 3 oranges just over there by the
right, grab them and let me see. Oh no, I don't have mine with me. I'll try and juggle some chocolate. All right,
we'll 3 oranges. I'll grab the 3 oranges.
All right, ladies and gents, you will notice that my set behind me has changed, and because it's changed behind me, I've suddenly realised I don't actually have the juggling balls. So I'm going to improvise with. Oh no, what am I going to improvise with? All right, I'm going to improvise with a gift that arrived yesterday from one of these lovely people. I think it was Sean. She sent me some Lindor chocolates. So, I'm going to...
Mine's a bit bigger than that, so...
Right, okay. I don't know which is more difficult, the bigger or the smaller. So I'm going to sit back. We're going to put some dramatic music on.
Oh, no.
Let's see what we
worried.
can find here.
Push
Here we
this
go.
back.
Right. Basically, whoever lasts longest takes
you
home
win.
the juggling challenge. Right, okay. Right, here we go. So let's wait for it to get a bit dramatic. And we're going to do the challenge once again. Last time it went terribly. Right, here we go. You're gonna notice I got shorts on if I go too far back. Right. Here goes. On a count of 3. 3, 2, 1. Oh! All right.
You beat me.
I think that was a draw. We'll leave it there as a draw. That was not easy. I think you dropped yours at the same time as I dropped mine, to be fair. That was an interesting challenge.
You're being kind. I think you won that. You've been kind. When it's one rotation, that was it.
There we go. Right, good work. All right, so before we do go, I just want to make sure that everyone has all your social media handles. So please tell us what your Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all that kind of stuff is so we can check you out. Let us know.
Some of your epic film, Bones. Well done. My Instagram is @magicalbones. My Twitter is @magicalbones. Facebook is Magical Bones, and yeah, that's it.
Nice and easy to remember.
I am on TikTok, but I'm not really on there as Magical Bones. There is a Magical Bones account, but it's not mine. I don't know why.
Have you got another secret, entertaining trait that we don't know about?
No. As in, like, I don't have like Magical Bones as a verified account. Someone else set up a Magical Bones account, and I can't get into it. So
I thought you meant you're like a part-time stripper on TikTok or something as a separate non-magical trait. All right, no worries.
That's my next job on this cruise ship. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, exactly. You've got the booking, no doubt. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Magical Bones. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who sent in questions. Really appreciate it. Don't forget that next week is the huge week for Magic. So you can see Magical Bones with the link in the description above. On Friday night in, is it Corby? You're doing it from Corby Theatre?
Oh, Core Theatre, yeah.
Core Theatre. And then on Saturday night, it's my show, which is from this room, but it's a completely different show to what you saw me do last time. So make sure you join us both next week. We would appreciate your company. We've got a lot planned. So thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next week. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to Magical Bones. Thank you again. Catch you later, everyone. And have a great Easter.